what's the coolest moment? If you had to pick one, it's probably tough to pick one, but since you've worked in sports, maybe something you've experienced that's maybe the most memorable.
Yeah, it is hard to pick. My first full-time job after my internship with the K-Wings was with the Chicago Blackhawks. And, being a big Red Wings fan, that was pretty difficult at the time. Luckily, the Red Wings and Blackhawks were in the same conference, and I got to see them play, at the United Center, I think 4 or 5 times while I was there. And I think the Red Wings won maybe 3 out of the 4. But the one game that the Blackhawks won, Patrick Kane was a rookie that year, actually, and he scored the shootout winner. I think it was over Hasek. So pretty cool. But to tie into that, one of my coolest moments, I've had a lot, but this one kind of stands out. We were running locker room tours for the Blackhawks during their draft party in the off season. And one of my tasks was to bring season ticket holders in and out of the locker rooms. And I remember, the Blackhawks had the first pick and they picked Patrick Kane. We were down in the locker room and it was the last tour of the day. And I was making sure everybody was out of the locker room because, they're fancy lockers, awesome little locker room in the United Center. And the whole coaching staff comes in. So Dennis Savard, I believe he's a Hall of Famer, but well-known name in the Blackhawks history and hockey in general. He came in and he asked me who I was and what my name was. I told him, Jason Kane, same exact spelling as Patrick. So he brought me into the coach's room, sat me down, talked to me for about, 5 to 10 minutes just about my career and with all the other coaches right after they made their number 1 draft pick. It's kind of cool that was one of my first, pro sports, working in professional sports, experiences. So thought that's what it was going to be like, the rest of the time. And, it's fun most of the time. There's a lot of hard work.
After your first couple years in Kalamazoo, you took the opportunity to go play overseas, and a lot of players will do that, especially to make some extra money.
Yeah.
If you're at a point in your career, see the world a little bit. Kazakhstan. So the VHL, for the fans that don't know, is kind of like the AHL for the KHL, right?
Yeah.
It's like a developmental minor league for the KHL. You got to play over in Kazakhstan. What was that experience like? I mean, is there any good stories from that?
Yeah, it was wild. I think my second week there, we were in training camp somewhere in Russia, and we get this meal, and when we're on the road, it's not like you get to pick what you're eating. We're kind of just having whatever they give us, and I'm like, all right, this looks like ground beef. So I asked, guys, this ground beef? There's 4 of us who spoke English fluently. We're 3 Canadians and me. And then there's probably 2 or 3 guys who were fluent because they played in the O or aspired to play in the NHL, so they learned English growing up. So they kind of helped us, said it was ground beef. I think it was horse. I couldn't eat for about the next 7 days. Every time I ate, it just right back up.
Oh, no.
So that was my second week there. And I would say the rest of the time was an eye-opening experience. As far as life, we got it so good over here, and we don't see it. But it was, every day was kind of something new, but it was cool. It was one of those experiences no one I know, no one friend will get to say they did. I don't know anyone who's going to live in Kazakhstan.
Yeah, I'll never forget it.
No, but every day was something new. It was 50 degrees below zero in the winter. We had a huge water stream through the middle of the town, probably 200 yards wide, and the stream was so fast that it didn't freeze in winters. But it got so cold this winter, it froze.
Wow.
2 days later, thawed out, our whole town went underwater.
Oh, man.
And then it froze over the town. So we're sitting there and our town's frozen over, and we're supposed to leave this week. It was the middle of March. So we're getting ready to go home and we can't. So we got extended vacation there in Kazakhstan for a few days, but it's something I'll never get to experience again.
How many hours of Call of Duty have you guys played during this quarantine? Because I know you guys are big gamers, and Call of Duty's the hit game this summer, Warzone. If you had to guess, maybe you did your research before you came on the show. How many hours have you sat down in front of the video game set and played that game?
That's funny because we were just playing before we got on here and we were talking about that. I think last I checked, I was logged in at 15 days total since I got it right around when quarantine started. So yeah, I put in a lot of time into the war zone.
I'm at, I think, almost 8, but the bad thing is I didn't start till about middle of May. So I was trying to avoid it at first with the quarantine, but then I picked it up kind of with all my friends, and I put on a lot of days on that game, unfortunately.
Any other favorite games?
NHL, Chell. Play a lot of Chell, and the new PGA Tour is pretty good. I've been playing that a lot too. That's taken away from my Call of Duty time. So
I'm actually a big Madden fan, so the new Madden actually comes out tomorrow, so I'm actually very excited about that. It means football season's very close, but that's probably the only game that will give Call of Duty some competition will be Madden now.
How much of a hockey background did you guys have before you came to the K-Wings? Is it something that you had to learn on the fly, or do you have some hockey in your past?
yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I remember about one of the first games that I interned. I didn't even know how the blue line worked. I didn't know how hockey worked at all, man. I had no education on it, and my boss at the time, he really educated me on it a little bit. But you learn a lot just from being at the games, being involved with it, and you get some time to sit down and watch it, and that's when I kind of learned the most. And now I love it. I didn't play Chell before then either, and then that's kind of when I picked it up, started playing Chell on the Xbox and everything, and you learn a lot from that. It's a great sport, and it's crazy how hard those guys work out there, man. It's super. People overlook it, man, but it is crazy how hard they're out there working.
Yeah, I actually started playing hockey when I was about 5. I think that's the first sport I played growing up, and I used to love it. My parents got me into it right away just because it was a rare sport that not a lot of families played or could possibly play it. So it was just living in the Muskegon area. We had the Muskegon Chiefs, which was pretty big back then. So I played for them growing up a little bit. I actually ended up stopped playing, I think, high school because we didn't have a team no longer. But I continue to still go to watch the Lumberjacks play, which is in Muskegon, or I used to try and go out to Red Wings once in a while.
One of the biggest adjustments right away is going to be the travel in the NHL. You're not going to be like the rest of us anymore riding along in buses. You're going to be flying charter. So I expect a picture of your first charter meal. And let us know, is that going to be a steak? What are you going to order?
You know what? Honestly, it's going to be a steak, or I might go with the halibut. I don't know. I've actually asked a few of my colleagues that I've known before this, guys who've been in different travel parties, what to expect, and they're like, man, I can't even describe it to you. And it's one of those things where I was actually talking to Ryan Clark the other day, and he kind of gave me a little taste, a little glimpse into what travel in the NHL is like, and some of the things he told me, I was just, are you kidding me? Like, not a chance. Like, I'm used to going to Burdick's in the hotel downtown Kazoo, and that's one of my favorite spots on the road. And I'm like, now we're going to be going to Ruth Chris and all these places. So, but no, I'll be sure to send you a picture of that first flight, that first meal, the 3-hour flight down the coast to LA instead of the 20 and a half hours to Allen, Texas.
I appreciate that. You guys don't play. You don't start playing until 2021-22. So you got a year to kind of get your feet wet, figure out the city, the organization, prepare for the start of the Kraken's first season. What kinds of things are you going to be doing in this year leading up to year one of play?
Yeah, I think within this first year, I'm going to be busier than I think I've ever been in my entire professional career. There's going to be so much content. This organization is really heavy in the content side and getting out in the community. So there's going to be tons of video features telling the story of the Kraken and building up that momentum from when they announced the team until ultimately when they dropped the first puck. So tons of video features. This team is really ingrained in the community, and that's a big focus of theirs. So we're going to be doing a lot of community events, a lot of speaking engagements, obviously working on the broadcasting contracts and deals and things like that. And we have an expansion draft to get ready for. We have an entry draft to get ready for. Hopefully by the time the next season faces off, we'll be back to somewhat normal. So, my plan is to see if I can travel to a few of these cities and get to know other broadcasters and other media people around the league and try to, like you said, get my feet wet and learn. And, it's going to be interesting not having done play-by-play for a full year, more than a year actually, because when you think about it, it'll be March will be 1 year, and then we'll have at least 7 months after that. So, I mean, I'm going on a year and a half maybe of no play-by-play. So trying to find ways to stay sharp, but there's going to be no shortage of work, and I'm going to be very, very busy still trying to build this up for the upcoming season.
The way you valued the fans while you were here, you got it. I mean, that's something that a lot of players, maybe it's an adjustment when they turn pro, is, going to events, doing community appearances, really valuing what the fan means to the team. And that's something that right away I noticed that you value that relationship. Where does that come from? Because I think it says a lot about your character too, is the ability to understand how important the fans are.
I mean, I just try and treat people the way I would want to be treated, and these people, they put a lot of time and money into our team, and you got to make it worth their while, because they're making it worth it for you, is the best way I would put it. I mean, they come to our games, and sometimes they're even at our practices and stuff. So I mean, I think it's more enjoyable to play in front of people that respect you as a person and respect what you do on the ice. And so for me, it was an easy transition when I was pro, and especially in minor league level. Like, you're so much more easier to, like, there's so many more events as compared to like the guys at the top, right? So it's definitely something that I've learned and I've picked up. And I mean, it's just, from my role models and leaders I've had in the past, that they've always treated fans with the most respect, and I try to do the same.
You played for Booter for 7 years. You played with Joel Martin as a teammate for a couple, and then for him as a coach. What are you going to miss about playing for those guys?
You know what? I'm not too sure yet. It's still pretty early, but I mean, I just like I said before, just the everyday grind that they put in behind the scenes. It helps you so much as a player when your coaches are prepared and they have an agenda and they have goals, and their goals are team goals. They're not individualistic in that sense, and they're always there to help you out, whether it's on the ice or off the ice. And I'm definitely going to miss them around the rink, and I'm going to try my best to stay in touch with them as much as I can, and you guys as well. But it'll be an adjustment for sure, for me, from that standpoint.
What's going on with your hair?
I was under the impression that phase 3 or phase 4 was restaurants. Mm-hmm. And then phase 5 was schools, and then phase 6 is sports arenas and sporting events, and then like phase 9 was barbershops. Oh. Did I have that right?
I have no idea what in the hell you're talking about.
This reopening business.
Can we edit that out? No one cares. I was just...
Yeah, I don't know. This is the longest my hair's ever been. So my parents are going to be a little terrified when they see me in a few weeks.
Well, I'm sure they'll still love you. But you know what, John? Let's change things up here. All this hockey talk is really, I really want to get to know you a little bit more. And I did some research on some hockey slang before I came here. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to say a word, and I want you to tell me what it means in the hockey world. Are you ready?
Yes, I'll try.
A biscuit.
That's the puck.
That's an easy one. You're welcome. Dangle.
That is a really nice stick handling move.
Oh.
Kind of like a toe drag.
Well, to the layperson maybe, but to an expert like yourself, I believe it's a deke.
Okay, that works. Yep.
What about a flamingo?
Oh, I'm guessing it has to do with a shot where your back leg comes up in the air. I don't know.
It's when a player lifts his leg to avoid getting hit by a shot. Come on here.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's me in men's league. Yeah.
Bring it home here, JP. Lettuce.
That's what I got going on right here.
All right, not bad at all. So, anyways, before we got started, I was talking to the cameraman back here, Bill or Francis or whatever the hell his name is. I don't really know. I wasn't paying attention to him.
That'd be Tim.
Tim. Oh, hey, Tim. I knew that. Anyways, you mentioned you consider yourself a hockey aficionado, so I wanted to know if you could maybe go into the origins of the term puck for us.
Have no idea. I know it's frozen, vulcanized rubber.
That's deep.
That hurts a lot
It's compelling.
when it hits you.
I didn't do any research. I just wanted to know if you knew.
I don't know when the term came about.
So, anyways.
I should probably know that, though. That would be a basic thing, right?
Look, I'm just here for my looks and talent. I don't know much about hockey.
That championship, when you guys won it, I mean, Kalamazoo isn't New York City or Chicago. Let's face it, there's not millions of people marching down Michigan Avenue with the parade route. But you mentioned the relationship with the fans here and how special that is and how close you guys were with the fans. And I think that's still the case in today's era. A lot of players, and maybe not as much, but there are a lot of players that do take that, as an important part of playing pro hockey here in Kalamazoo. You guys, obviously, as you said, were very close with the fan base. What was that celebration like when you guys won the Turner Cup your year?
I'll never forget that night. We won down in Fort Wayne, and just to win the cup itself, it's a long year. And I think it was like almost in June type thing when the season ended. So it was a long year because you go from training camp, you go to the regular season, the playoffs, and when you win it, I mean, it was just icing on the cake. But to win it in Fort Wayne, and then to come back I think we came back about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and to walk into the stadium where it was almost totally full at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you got Mr. and Mrs. Parfait, with the cup, and talking to the fans and the players. It was surreal. It was kind of cool to sit back and take it all in, and knowing that we were part of it for the second year in a row. But it was just amazing to see the fans that come out and support, and a lot of them would go down on the road trips, and they were down in Fort Wayne that night. But to come back and see that rink full of fans was pretty cool.
I want to jump ahead for a second to the 83-84 season. So you had over a point per game. It was the most points you ever had in your career, 87 points that year. Played in every single game, but your penalty minutes were 267. Were you just getting misconducts every night, or what was going on?
Well, I think part of the game back in the day again is that you sit back and you protect your teammates, and I've always kind of done that part. I was kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. But I would score some goals here and there and get a few points, but also, it was expected of me to sit back and toss them once in a while, right? So I had no problem doing that because it all started off in junior A hockey in Flin Flon and New Westminster, which I played my junior A hockey up there. And New Westminster was known as probably the toughest team in all of hockey. And so you had to learn how to fight at a young age.
Yep.
And whether you liked it or not, that was just the route that the kids played in junior A hockey. So you learned at an early age, and it wasn't without a few losses, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So you got your butt kicked a few times, but you learn over time, and you learn to duke it out. And most of the guys back in that era, even with 16 guys, John, I would say the majority of those guys could defend themselves pretty well. We did it as a team. It wasn't just me, but it was, a handful of guys that would sit back and protect each other. And so, but every team back in that era probably had the same amount of guys.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like I said, any given night, anything could happen, any brawl could happen.
It's like a ticking time bomb.
It was a ticking time bomb, and even the goalies would get involved once in a while. And it was fun, and I missed that. I hate to say it, but I mean, even after taking a few lickings back in the days, you miss that part of the game that I think the fans enjoyed it somewhat, and I understand why they're taking it out. It just is what it is. Things change over time. But you talk to a lot of the old fans, and they'll sit back, and the old school people, I guess, right? And I'm kind of old school, where I kind of miss that part of it.
In a perfect world, on a game night, you're standing on the bench, coaches, Mitch McLeod, our equipment manager. In a perfect world for a trainer, it's a quiet night for you, right? I mean, nobody really needs you, and there's nothing that requires immediate attention, and hey, that's a win, right? Yeah. Are you ever, and I've asked this to other trainers too, is there ever a nervousness on a game day? Not that you wouldn't be able to do your job if needed, but just like, please let this be a game where I don't have to.
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety on the bench, just hoping and, just kind of crossing your fingers that we get through this and everybody stays healthy. It's always in the back of your mind. It's
especially when we're already banged up.
Yeah, you're banged up, or if you don't want to get banged up on the first end of a long road trip because there's just so much going on in your head. But yeah, there's some nerve-wracking experiences on benches for sure. Just hoping that guys don't get hurt or that kind of thing.
One that a lot of our fans have asked me about and we're here for, and I think we can talk about because he's been open about it to us and to the media and his recovery, is Justin Taylor's injury in the playoffs a few years ago when it was such a rare fluky incident where the pucks came screaming up, hit him in the eye. Obviously, he had a long road to recovery, and it was very scary at the time. And now he wears that tinted visor, for his sight, and he's obviously back to his abilities again. Oh, yeah. But at the time, it was terrifying. I wasn't here, but I've heard stories. What was that like? If you think back on?
Yeah, that was a very terrifying one for me. Obviously, when a player goes down, of someone like Justin, like when they go down, something's seriously wrong. Like it's so going out to him and just seeing, you knew something was wrong because just where he was hit and how things were acting, it was just we're going now kind of a thing. But it was, the worst part is kind of being at the ER with his wife and when they're all together and it's just the unknown. Like you don't know if you're going to be able to see again or even keep an eye, and that was terrifying. That kind of makes you kind of run through life and kind of reassess what you're what you're doing. But yeah, that was the worst part's the unknown part. It's just, once you get the information and you know that you're going to be able to do something, then you can work with something. But until you get that traction, that's an uncomfortable feeling for players and us, even staff. Like, Nick's a great coach, so anybody gets hurt when we go to the ER,
he's there.
Yeah, never misses an ER visit, and that's amazing too, because it's a family. We're together 7 days a week, 10 months out of the year. So it's when one of your own goes down bad, it's a family affair. It hurts.
But we talked about Ben Wilson, the captain for 4 years. He was with the K-Wings for 7. Obviously just signed a contract over in Romania to continue his career. It didn't start this way, but at some point during the season, like the midway point, I think, you guys got paired together. And Coach Bootland never split that pairing up. You guys were the consistent duo that played together the rest of the year. I guess, what did you learn from him and his experience? And I guess, do you have any funny stories for us? Because we know Ben Wilson's kind of a prankster.
Yeah, it was great playing with Willie. I also sat beside him in the locker room all year, so I got to hear all of his little jokes and little things under his breath and little things before games. He'd be like, watch this, and we just like look at some guy that was maybe getting dialed in and being a little weird about it or something like that. But Willie really taught me what it meant to be a pro. Being the captain and how serious he was every game. Every game means something. And no matter what part you are in the season, those points always mean something. They're huge for our team. So just making sure you're staying consistent, I think, was one of the biggest things he taught me. Just stay consistent with your game, because I think he was one of the most consistent guys on the team for sure. And so I think us being a couple consistent defensemen paired with each other every night, I think the coaches maybe just knew what we were going to bring to the game every night. And so that helped them a lot. So that was the biggest thing I think he taught me. He was a big leader in the dressing room, helped us a lot in games we were struggling, always made sure he was bringing 100%. So that was huge for us and the team. So it definitely hurts to lose him, but I think some of the funny things, you just see him do on a daily basis when it comes to practice, and him chirping guys. You were always scared to be in a drill with him where you were passing with him or something. And if you messed up a pass, you were hearing about it right away. And then if he messes up a pass, it's like you can't even say anything. And then, in games, he's always chirping guys. He was in the league for a good amount of time, so I think he knew other guys in the league pretty well. So he had some pretty funny chirps on some guys, and it was always entertaining being beside him on the bench.
We had a little office pool going, and I don't know who won, but when we found out that you were going to be our guest on the show, which we were excited about, everybody was guessing how long it would take before Bowling Green got brought up, which is your alma mater, and you're very proud of. And I think that speaks to, we all know you as Joe B, who loves his Bowling Green sports. And so, I don't know who won. We'll find out, I guess, after the fact. But Everett also went to Bowling Green. Doc Emmerich, who just retired, after the best broadcasting career in hockey history.
Legendary.
He's an idol of mine. He went to Bowling Green and has ties to Bowling Green. You know, about that experience, one thing Everett told me that I did not know until our interview on Just Winging It with Everett was you were the play-by-play broadcaster for Bowling Green's only national championship in hockey. That's amazing.
It really was a great experience. That year, I turned in a tape at the beginning of the season because we had a guy who was doing it pretty regular, a junior, and I was a junior. And he got hired away after the first series by the commercial station that was carrying BG. And I was the only one to turn a tape in, so I got the gig. And pretty much nobody else wanted to do hockey play-by-play. They were all football, basketball guys, and baseball. So I started doing the games with a guy named Gary Palla, who was the play-by-play manager. Gary has since passed away. And then John Bowers, who's one of my dear friends, became my partner that year. And we had a 17-game unbeaten streak that year. We had guys on the team that played great, long NHL careers. We had a fabulous team under Coach Jerry York. And we almost didn't make the tournament because we kind of struggled in the CCHAs, but somehow we got a bid because the previous year we kind of got the shaft on a bid. We should have had it. But and they made it all the way to Lake Placid to the Final Four. It wasn't even called the Frozen Four then.
Yeah.
And we played Michigan State in the semis. We beat them by 1 goal. I called my parents who were living in Connecticut at the time. I said, Mom, Dad, we won. We're playing for the national championship tomorrow against Minnesota Duluth. My dad, without a hesitation, said, we're coming up. Because my parents drive 6 hours through the snow of the Adirondack Mountains and come and see. And to this day, it was the only college hockey game my parents ever saw. And we beat Duluth in 4 overtimes. They still show the winning goal on the Frozen Four highlights on ESPN when they play it. Of Gino Cavallini scoring the winning goal. 7 minutes, 11 seconds in the 4th overtime. Yes, I have that down pat.
I would too.
And we had stat papers flying in the air, and we couldn't believe it. And just an amazing experience.
Like I said, the last time I saw you where I could actually talk to you was in March at the alumni gathering, the last one. And usually that's a regular gathering with a big group of former K-Wings that show up and tell old stories. And usually this is the spot. This is the go-to spot for us. So, what do you love about those meetings and seeing some of the guys again and being able to catch up?
Well, it's sort of funny that, you play with the guys and the guys that have the camaraderie and you all live, in the city within so many miles of each other, but you never tend to, now that hockey's finished, you don't get together, frequently or whatever, and those relationships and friendships that you had with with everybody, it's just really nice. All of a sudden we move on, we're a bit older, and it's been really pleasant, a pleasure to meet the guys you played with, and then other players have played in different eras, decades of the hockey and everything, and it just brought everybody together, and everybody really enjoys getting together to do it. But now with this COVID thing, it's sort of been put at a halt, but hopefully soon we can all get together.
You spent the last 2 years of your career here in the mid-'80s, the 84-85 season, the 85-86 season. So you ended your career here, and then you stayed, and you've been here since. Well, what was it? What hooked you about Kalamazoo that made you want to stay?
Well, when I came here to Kalamazoo, at the time I had played on the eastern side of Michigan. I played in Flint. I know they were the enemy, and we had it was a successful time for me. We actually won the Turner Cup. But when I came to, and there was a lot of things I saw there, like the auto industry and that, but unfortunately it started to, the auto industry took a bad, started to, go down in the industry. And here in Kalamazoo, it just seemed everything was a little more, like Pfizer or Upjohn Company at the time, of course. Ted Parfett was team in. I just really enjoyed this side of the state. It's close to to Chicago and all these places, very convenient, and just the small town people. Everybody was just so friendly, and I just liked it. I grew up in a big city in Canada, in Toronto, so I sort of liked the lighter pace.
outside of work, you have a lot going on, and especially during the pandemic. And from all of our team Zoom calls that we've had, this is probably the quietest that it's ever been in the background. I got to ask, with 3 kids to keep you busy at home, does the screaming ever stop?
Absolutely not. The first, the twins are back at daycare. Benjamin started preschool. The first day I came home with all 3 of them away at school, I literally sat in my living room and did not know what I should be doing. There was no diapers to change. There was no, don't climb on that. There was no, don't bite your brother. It was weird. But yeah, we are a very busy household. We have the 3 kids, obviously, and then we also have 2 dogs and a cat inside. So during the worst part of, the lockdown and stuff, I learned a lot about my family during that period of time. My children are apparently part squirrel. I think they are stowing things away for the winter. Our couch cushions were full of crackers that we didn't know about until we, went to vacuum it out. We found crunchy taco shells that I know were in the pantry. They were in the freezer. Empty milk jugs are stuffed away in different cupboards. If I can't find something, I know it's not because I lost it. It's because the kids hid it somewhere else. So I learned a lot about my children. So it was fun, but also just crazy.
I'm laughing for 2 reasons. The squirrels storing things away for the winter might be the funniest comparison I've ever heard. And then it's ironic that I'm talking about the background noise and how distracting that's got to be for you every time we have a team meeting or a Zoom call, and here my dog decides during our show that he wants to be vocal, and I don't think that's happened in 28 episodes of the show. So this is the time he wanted to chime in.
It was meant to be. Yeah, those kids are tricky. They they make you think that they ate all their snack, and they'll come over and ask for more. And I'm like, wow, you ate that really quickly. And then a week later, I'm vacuuming out the couch, and there's hundreds of goldfish and Cheez-Its in my couch cushions. So, they're tricky little things, but.
The other time you had 80 points in a season was that 2010-11 year with Kalamazoo when you guys went all the way to the finals. What do you remember? What was special about that season and that team?
Yeah, I think that particular season we were around a 500 team till heading into the final 2 months of the season, and then just a lot of things just fell in line. I think Nick Bootland found just slowly but surely moving different players around. I think me, Andrew Fournier, and Daryl Lloyd were aligned the last 2 months of the year, and we had a ton of success, as well as Corey Carlander, Patrick Aslan. I think Justin Taylor might have made up the another line, and they had a lot of success. So, yeah, I just remember just throughout the whole year Nick Bootland moving different players around, and then we kind of ginned right at the right time.
Do you have any favorite memories from that run to the finals that you and your teammates had? Anything that stands out that you look back on and have fond memories of?
Yeah, I think the very first game up in Alaska, they had a sellout crowd, and they have the cowbells and all these different noisemakers, I feel like. So I just remember I started that first game, our line did, and just just the electricity in the air, and then a couple of the big wins as you close out the season. And unfortunately, we didn't win it all that year in Kalamazoo. We had some tough games. I mean, that was a good team Alaska was that year.
Can you share the story behind Bedbug? Because nobody knows, I don't think.
The nickname or the jersey?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't even know if you intended on your nickname being Bedbug for that night, but everybody has to pick their nickname, and this is the first year we've done it with the jersey nicknames, and everybody does, their last name with a Y at the end. So it's, Hildy or Sorney or whatever. There's very few different ones like, Jake Kiley was Killer. Then you have it's Bedbug.
Yeah, I wasn't beating the door down, stitching the letters on myself that I wanted to be Bedbug that bad. The whole process was more or less a miscommunication, because I think we were in Allen and Mitchie was texting me asking, what nickname do you want? And I just went through a list. Like I went KB, Iceman, Blaine's, on and on and on. And then I said bedbug, LOL at the end. And I think even he told me that him and Marty were out for dinner, or the staff was out for dinner probably. And they were thinking about Blarney. And it just kind of, when I showed up for that game and I saw my jersey, I had no idea that that was the decision. So imagine that, like 2 hours before one of the biggest games of the year. And by the way, the night before was the Indy game where I turned the puck over in overtime. So like I'm already in a mood. Like now, if on that day, if fans saw me or like if my peers saw me, that's when they could probably get away with saying, yeah, like he's angry today. I was on a mission and I come into the rink and I turn my jersey around and I'm already like, oh, it's a gimmick game like Harry Potter. You know, sometimes when you have a different jersey on, it can,
right.
It takes away from the focus to a degree. And I turn it around and it says bedbug and I almost left. Like I almost left. I was so close. Honestly, like if my belt buckle wasn't like horrible to get on, then I would have left. It's just, I was speechless. But the story from where the name actually came from is just Willie. Willie, every day when I'd walk by him in the morning, I guess I looked tired because like I'm up, but he would be on the bike, you know, doing Willie things like Mr. G.I. Joe. And he would say, oh, like, hey, bedbug. And then that just kind of like, that's it. Like, there's no story. It's just, he just kind of, and then it kind of turned into a thing. Like when I'd be leaving the rink, there's Willie stretching or drinking a protein shake or doing push-ups. Whatever he does is like, see a bedbug or back to bed, eh, bedbug, or on the road. We're like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, you're going to bed, bedbug. That's it. And then it just ended up like, I just suggested it because I was going on a list of all nicknames and then Mitchie picked it, and I'll give him credit to it worked out.
Thankfully, all that happened because now bedbug will live in K-Wings history for that awesome goal. That was a tiebreaker that prevented overtime, game-winning goal. And if it was Blarney or, you know, KB, I don't think it would have been quite as memorable as bedbug.
No, like in history years from now, this game has no relevance if it's just Kyle Blaney who scored.
Yeah.
If we have regular K-Wing jerseys on and I'm just Kyle Blaney, nobody cares. But that night, I was bedbug. And that's why people are going to remember.
You mentioned Fort Wayne. That rivalry with Fort Wayne is long-lasting here in Kalamazoo. It's a rivalry that goes back to the 70s, the IHL days, and it still exists to this day in the ECHL.
Oh, yeah.
That 78-79 season, you started here in Kalamazoo, you ended up in Fort Wayne. What was that like going through that? How did that all play out? And did you feel the rivalry back then?
You know what? I wasn't aware of any rivalry with Fort Wayne back then. I will tell you, we had a brawl there. Actually, well, in the stands after a game one time, we had to get a police escort back out onto the highway after the game because when we were bottom line is they had fans waiting in the lobby for us that wanted to kill us because we'd gotten in a bit of a brawl with some of the fans just after the game. So, you know, you have to go through the lobby to get to the bus from the dressing room. You know, like I said, with 300 fans there in the lobby, you know, we had to make they put the bus down in the basement of the building. We went down there and we pulled out from under the building. You know, then we pulled through this garage door, and we were expecting some not so nice treatment when we get out there. And so we had our bags in the bus with us up against the windows, and sure enough, we had whatever, bricks and all kinds of stuff getting thrown at the bus. We had our police escort out, eventually made it onto the highway on a 69, and then half an hour later, there was a car sitting on the median that we drove by, and as we drove by, we heard this noise, and everybody wondered what the hell it was, and nobody knew. And then when we get back to Kalamazoo, the bus driver went to the back of the bus and he saw 2 bullet holes in the back of the bus. So it was pretty crazy.
ultimately Kalamazoo, because of our jurisdictional restraints and the safety of not only the players, but our hockey ops staff, our front office staff, our fans, our employees at Wings Event Center, it was the socially responsible decision. And it was difficult. And I will personally say, and I'm sure Nick would agree, it was very emotional. Man, we've been riding this coaster for 9 months, and I wouldn't say there's very many highs on it. It was more like just a constant descent. So, but, you know, like you said, John, we were in it together. You know, we'd talk to each other, whether it was in a group setting or I'd call Nick or Nick would call me, you know, and we understood. It's nice because we're a close-knit team, and we understood and could help kind of talk each other through it, because we truly didn't know where we were going to end up. This literally came down in the last couple of weeks. November didn't help us in Michigan. And it was just the simple fact that COVID cases were on the rise. And, you know, it was the responsible right thing to do. And our fans, I shout out early on, our season ticket holders, our general public fans, so understanding, so supportive. And I thank you. My staff thanks you. I know Nick's staff does too, for being so understanding, because we felt that.
Yeah, I was relieved at the response that we did receive. A lot of people understood kind of the situation we are in and how unique that situation is. And Nick, I wanted to get to right away. I mean, you guys put in a lot of work this offseason. I don't think people realize the amount of work that the coaching staff puts in, the front office as well. I mean, we put in a lot of work to get ready for the year, but you guys, aside from recruiting a team, signing at least 24 players, going over video, hours and hours of video, you and Joel and Kyle Forte. When the news finally came down, when did it hit you, and how tough was that news to take?
Well, yeah, first off, obviously my staff is devastated is probably the word that we would use. This is the toughest thing that I've ever had to deal with in my professional career. And, you know, we haven't even got to the part where you're thinking about yourself yet, to be honest. You know, you're thinking about players, and, you know, we obviously knew prior to the announcement, what was the announcement on a Monday, and we knew our players were becoming free agents on the Sunday, and we were adamant, and the league agreed that we wanted to be the ones to obviously tell our players. We had, with tryouts and those type of agreements plus signed guys, we had 31 guys committed to coming to Kalamazoo to try and be part of our culture and try to win a championship. And we felt like this was one of the teams we've been excited about, and we were truly excited about the team that we put together. And having a staff that all lives in Kalamazoo for the first time ever, I think is something that is a testament to that. You have Kyle, who lives here. You have Joel and his family who lives here. You have Mitch McLeod, our equipment manager, lives here. Obviously, Scott Allison has lived here for a long time. But literally, those are the people that I take care of, and those are the ones that I'm responsible for. So, you know, those are the people that you worry about first, and those are the people you lose sleep over, is them, and then the players, right? We all understand how short careers are. We understand how short careers can be if you miss 18 months. We understand that there is people who are playing hockey and when they're super fortunate. And, you know, that was a tough weekend, even this weekend, watching ECHL scores, and that's your league and that's been your life. And to be sitting back trying to help players find jobs, that's what we've been trying to do as a staff right now. And, you know, there's no exaggeration to the 40 phone calls a day since the news has come out, and that's not an exaggeration. That's what we've been trying to do. We've talked to every player individually. When we first told them it was a Zoom setting, because I wanted them all to know at the same time. So we told them that as a staff, and then I reached out to every single one of them. As much as we select them, they have to select and want to be part of our process as well. So we thanked them for that, and it was a crazy turnaround, right? I mean, we were full steam ahead even when Governor Whitmore slowed things down there in mid to late November, where she sort of stepped back and closed us down. I mean, our marching orders were to move forward, and that's what we were trying to do as an organization. And then, you know, less than 2 weeks later, we were having to make a really tough decision with not a lot of information, or not enough information to feel safe with the decision that was going to be made. So ultimately, it's crazy, for sure. For lack of a better term, crazy is the word that I've been using. But you know, we're going to find a way to bounce back from this. That's for sure.